Joining me now is Democratic Senator Chris Coons, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. You're going to be sitting in judgment. First of all, what do you think?
Well, I think the timing couldn't have been worse here, Andrea. We've got an opening with North Korea, something that President Trump's bluster and aggressive stance may have helped create. But this is exactly the moment when you need your diplomatic team to be operating at its highest level. Secretary Tillerson is someone who both stood up to Russia on some occasions in some ways, most recently over the assassination of a former Russian spy in the United Kingdom, but also in saying that we should be negotiating with North Korea. The absence of an ambassador in South Korea, the absence of an assistant secretary, and now the absence of a secretary of state concerns me deeply as we are diving into this opportunity with North Korea. So both the process and the timing concerns me deeply.
And we know that Senator Corker, not very close with the president, but very close with Rex Tillerson. As of an hour or so ago, he had not yet spoken to him, but he spoke to our cameras about a rapid confirmation hearing. Let me play that.
I think with any Secretary of State, let's face it, with any of them, it's the one cabinet position where you're in the president's lane, right? I mean, you're not going to be in the president's lane as head of CIA or Homeland Security or even Treasury. Secretary of State is the one position that you're constantly in the president's lane. And so it's the more difficult of all the cabinet positions.
Now, there was also personal friction between the two, clearly, and challenges. Jared Kushner and before that Steve Bannon doing diplomacy with Riyadh, which contradicted what Secretaries Mattis and Tillerson wanted in terms of Qatar, where we have, of course, that enormous base. There were so many different conflicts and competing areas, but the bottom line was personal. So is it better to quickly confirm Mike Pompeo and get him in there, because we know he has the president's ear and at least diplomacy will be, or the State Department will be represented? What is your view as a Democrat?
Well, that's a tough trade-off because, frankly, the State Department and this administration, President Trump, have failed to deliver to the Foreign Relations Committee and to the country a clear strategy for where we're headed in Syria, with Iran, with North Korea, with Russia. And many of us, myself included, are going to be strongly tempted to use confirmation hearings to do our best to extract that clearer policy, path forward strategy from this administration, things that we were promised during Secretary Tillerson's confirmation and yet haven't seen. The number two at the State Department, Deputy Secretary Sullivan, is someone I have great confidence in and I think will keep things moving forward in the intervening time. But for exactly the reasons I said earlier, this opening with North Korea, I can understand the reason why Chairman Corker and others may push for a quick hearing with Mike Pompeo. He won't need to come up to speed on the security aspects of North Korea and Iran and Syria and Russia. But what I hope he will come up to speed on is the centrality of trusting and supporting our career foreign service officers and the diplomats who are so essential to the success of the State Department, and the advocacy for human rights and values that has so long been a key part of what our secretaries of state in previous administrations have done.
One of the key things on which Rex Tillerson upset the president was Iran. He tried to stretch out any decision to kill the Iran deal by withdrawing from it. There's another deadline coming up as soon as May. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I hope that President Trump will listen to his national security advisor, his Secretary of Defense, and we'll see where CIA Director Pompeo comes out on this. But both Republicans and Democrats on the Foreign Relations Committee, both those who opposed the Iran deal and those who supported it, have agreed in our conversations and in our hearings that the JCPOA, this Iran deal, is worth staying in for now. We should be working with, we are working with our European allies to try and find ways to constrain Iran's bad behavior in the region, its ballistic missile launches, its human rights violations, its support for terrorism. There are things we can and should do together. But to tear up this deal and walk away from it just because of a position taken in the campaign would be a strategic error, especially when we're in this moment where we are trying to pull together the world community to apply pressure to North Korea and to secure a new deal with North Korea that would give us inspections and possibly lead to denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. If you think Kim Jong-un isn't looking at what's happening to Iran and the path forward on the Iran deal, you're sorely mistaken. And this is an important moment for us to stay in the Iran deal for now, find ways to improve upon it, in order to have some prospect of a deal with North Korea. Those two are closely intertwined.
Chris Coons, as always, Senator, thank you very much. And